Good morning, and for the third time. Everything comes in threes, doesn't it? So, good morning. Oh, I think that's the fourth time. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our wonderful show, The Spirit World Sees All, where you have me and me. Uh, we also have Grey Eagle, who is standing to my right side, as always. And good morning to Chris, our fabulous and wonderful facilitator. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. How about we do story time today instead?
Of what?
Instead of the spirit world
Oh,
sees all.
no, no, not again. Really? Did I
If
really?
people would only know the troubles we have before we shoot up this show, start up this show. Oh,
I've
the
come
fact that we
out.
can speak.
I've come out 4 times, gone back in 4 times, still didn't work. Then, as I'm talking to it's working perfectly. Just before we're going live, my entire screen goes blank. So please forgive me, everybody, if I'm not thinking 100%. I'm just struggling and trying to get on the show. You're right. It is not the spirit world sees all. I did say that, but even so, the spirit world does see all. And in fact, I have Grey Eagle, who has suggested a story that I should tell you this morning. Because, to be honest, by the time we'd gone in and out and up and down with this internet, uh, I wasn't in the mood for thinking about a story. And so, Grey Eagle, thank goodness for Grey Eagle, because he whispered in my ear, daffodils. So there you have it. Yes, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about daffodils today. And Chris might think she knows where this story is going, although you might be wrong, Chris. Uh, do we have anybody there?
People are just beginning to log in, Rosemary, so you might have
Okay.
another minute or two to chat.
All right. So we shall just chat now. You're in Florida. Tell me about your walk on the beach yesterday. That sounds wonderful.
Oh, I went with your neighbors, and the water was
My
bath water
let
warm.
me let me just tell you, my wonderful neighbours. Carry on. Yes,
Yes, they're absolutely fabulous neighbors.
they are
And
great neighbours.
as we were walking alongside the beach, Henrik stops a minute and he goes, "What was that? What was that?" And we look and we can see some dark shadows in the water moving. And all of
Wait,
a sudden,
wait. Do 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 do. No, no.
no. All of a sudden, a pair of dolphins, not even 15 feet away from where we're walking, are just cruising along the shoreline.
Nice, very
So
nice.
we watched them come up and down a few times. And then we walked a little further down the beach. And there were two young people who were scooping out eggshells from turtle nests that had hatched. And they were counting them and marking them down in their notebooks. And there was, oh my gosh, there must have been, I'm going to guess 30, at least 30
Oh,
nests along the
really? Oh,
beach.
nice.
Yeah. So they're all marked out with stakes and red tape. And then we went a little bit further along, and there was a sort of a deep hole on the side of the embankment there. And there was a big, huge claw that came out as we were about to walk, and it went back into the water, and it ended
Wait,
up
wait.
being,
Do do do. No. Do 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 do. Do. No.
it
I'm
ended
trying
up
to
being,
to this story. Go ahead.
it ended up being a crab the size that you would have seen on a plate in New York City for dinner. So we
Nice
watched the
visual there.
crab, yeah, come in and out of the water, eating whatever it eats there. And then, of course, you know the myriad of birds that you have at the beach down here. So it was, it was a wonderful morning walk.
Good. Now you said the water was warm, bath water warm. Did you go in? Did you swim?
Oh, I did. Absolutely. You can't go to the beach without swimming.
Well, I can. I do go into the water occasionally, but I'm not a big um, ocean swimmer. I love to look at it. I love to paddle in it. But I had a very, very bad experience when I was a little girl, very tiny little girl, with the ocean. And so I it frightens me, to be honest. So big, so vast, such an expanse, and of course, as you just said, you can't really see what's going on in there either, can you? But anyway, I'm glad you had a fabulous walk, and I bet Henrik and Janina had a fantastic walk as well. All right, so how are we doing with people coming on?
I think who's ever going to be here is on now.
Okay, so do we have any questions or comments or anything going on before I begin with my story?
No, most everybody is just saying good morning.
Okay, all right, here we go then. So, as all of you know, you've heard me say before, once upon a time, as all good stories, excuse me, must begin. Uh, I was in California and I was talking to a grey eagle. We were in California. I had a house on the beach. Let me sort of set the scene for you. I was renting a house on the beach from people who actually became good friends. And they had this wonderful sort of little sitting area, nice and cozy. And I put myself in there, and I had decided with Grey Eagle that we were going to maybe write another book, but I was at a loss. I didn't quite know what we were going to write about, and I was hoping, and Grey was chuckling on my side here. I was hoping and relying on Grey Eagle to sort of give some suggestions or to make some suggestions. Now, up to this point in my career as a spiritual medium, I'd always talked about the fact that I believed that every one of us on this earth plane, no matter how dark we became, no matter what awful dark deeds we might do, I always believed and I think held out the hope that there was a little bit of good in every one of us. And so I had said this for years and years and years, that I believe that even the worst of us has a little bit of good, a little bit of light in us. Well, sitting in California in that cozy little room and sitting with my pad and my pen and sitting and talking to Grey Eagle and figuring out what it was that we were going to be doing, uh, that was the moment when I learned for the first time that there, in fact, were souls who walk this earth who we call dark souls, souls from, let's say, the other side, not of the light, but from a dark place. Some of you might say that that place is hell. Um, I'm just going to say that it's a dark place. It's a place of let's say, evil deeds and evil doings and evil energy, very dark energy. I think it's a place of very dark energy. So I learned for the first time that not every one of us has a little bit of good in us, a little bit of light in us. There are some people who do not, in any way, shape, or form, have that light or want that light or require that light to live their lives here on this earth. So that was my first sort of shocking revelation, because it kind of dashed hopes for me a little bit, I think. I always wanted to believe that, you know, we can always approach people, even the worst. We can always approach the worst of people with reason, common sense, kindness, gentleness, and they're going to, some part of them is going to, excuse me, at some point respond. So that was my first little bit of education, but little did I know that this trip to California, and I stayed in California for about 2.5 months. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. I've got the door open. We've got all sorts of pollen and stuff and wind and so on. So please excuse the sniffles I've got here. So that was my sort of the beginning of, let's say, a new learning curve for me. And the most interesting thing about this new learning curve was as Grey Eagle sat with me and talked to me, I learned about souls. I learned about soul signs. And I learned that, and this is where we're going to talk a little bit about daffodils. I learned that each soul is like a daffodil. So I found it really fascinating because Grey Eagle told me that each soul is, let's say, likened to a daffodil bulb. There it is. It's beautiful. It's, healthy. And it comes to this earth. This daffodil bulb, this soul comes to this earth. Now, as we all know with daffodil bulbs, they require soil. They require good soil. They require to be put into good soil. They require food. They require water. They require nourishment. And the soul does the same thing. That soul, likened to the daffodil bulb, placed on this earth, buries its roots into this earth, settles itself into this world of ours, this earth of ours, requiring nurturing, watering, nourishment, you name it, requiring all of those things. But unlike, of course, the daffodil bulb, which requires whatever it is in the soil, nitrates and so on, the soul requires love and kindness and gentleness. But it also requires things like pain and hardship and struggle. Like the daffodil bulb, it buries its roots into the ground. Like the daffodil bulb, it struggles to find its place on this earth. And like the daffodil bulb, the soul has to weather the winds, the rains, the frosts. Think about it. The soul is like the daffodil bulb, and it has to weather all of these things. And when you give a flower bulb, such as a daffodil, frost, sometimes the bulb requires the frost to let's say, freeze it in place for a second or two. And as the thaw begins, the daffodil bulb can bloom, it can grow, shoots come out of it. Like the soul, it learns, it grows, and gradually it begins to flower. Now, when Grey Eagle and I were talking about this whole process, we were talking about the fact that the soul is like a daffodil bulb. Like a daffodil bulb, the narcissus, the whole species is called narcissus. But can you imagine then my surprise when each soul had its own type of flower? Um, I'll describe mine. I'm an earth sign. So in every one of the the groups that we have, water sign, earth sign, air sign, and fire sign, there are three soul groups in each of those. There are three soul types in each of those groups. So my flower, I'm a warrior in an earth sign group, and my flower is the trumpet, that big, strong trumpet daffodil, which stands tall and proud and looking out always. This daffodil is always looking out. And it's an amazing, amazing daffodil. When Bagel told me about all of the different daffodils and why each soul had its own type of daffodil, own type of flower, in other words, its own type of energy, which we liken to the daffodil bulb, I was fascinated. And I was fascinated particularly by my own soul sign and by my own flower. Now, we know that there are no coincidences, don't we, in this life of ours? We know that things are planned out for us. much more so than we would perhaps like to think. So my story takes a little curve now, it takes a little turn, because now I'm no longer in California. Now I am a little girl growing up in a pretty difficult household with a father who was an army sergeant, tough and rigid, and a mother who was a fire sign who was emotional and often cruel. Okay, so my father, also an earth sign, but not knowing anything about earth signs, maybe somewhere inside him, maybe his soul was speaking to him. I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, my father was a gardener. He liked to go out and garden. And uh, as I grew up, every time I went through the garden gate in the springtime, in the early spring, towards getting towards the summer, but every time I would walk through that gate at that time of year, uh, I was met with a profusion of golden daffodils. The trumpet daffodil, would you believe? My father was an earth sign and a warrior, and I'm an earth sign and a warrior. Did he choose this particular type of daffodil because it resonated with him, because his soul was somehow speaking to him? Every time I walked through, every time I went to visit with my parents, and even when I left home, every springtime, that garden was filled to the gills, literally. There were hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of daffodils, the big, bright yellow trumpet daffodil. And it used to do something to me inside. It would sort of make my heart sing. Didn't really know why, but those daffodils represented me and they represented my father. They were our soul in full colour, let's say. Another weird coincidence, let's go sideways, let's take another step. Coincidentally, when I was at school, I was sort of, in my uh, early teens, early to sort of mid teens, and I was in the school choir, always being very shy. Um, Singing and acting were my ways of sort of just coming out of myself, being somebody else, being somebody different. And in the choir, we were required from time to time to do concerts and so on. And one of my favorite things to do at a concert was to sing out loud about, yes, daffodils. There is a Wordsworth poem, it's called Daffodils. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Well, that was me. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high and something or another on vale and hills, I think it is. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beside the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, there is a special piece of music that poem has been set to a special piece of music that we in the choir used to sing, and I used to love to sing that song. Little did I know that it connected with the soul. Little did I understand how much the soul is likened to the daffodil and how much the daffodil represents how the soul looks, how the soul feels, what the soul is all about, and how the soul, when blooming like the daffodil, blooming bright and golden and yellow, and for my soul sign, the trumpet daffodil, when you see a group, or as Wordsworth would say, a host of golden daffodils fluttering in the breeze, it's rather like, now fast forwarding to now, it's rather like when we look out at a crowd of people. We look out at a crowd of people and we see what? We just see some people are being nice, some people are being not so nice, some people are hurrying and scurrying, some people are fluttering around trying to get their shopping done, trying to do this and that. But when I think of soul science, when I think of Grey Eagle, and when I think of how Grey Eagle describes us as a cluster, an earth cluster, we who are souls who live on this earth of ours, when he describes that, and when he talked to me all those years ago about the soul and what the soul was required to do and how it was required, what it needed to live, to breathe, to expand, to grow, to learn. When I see people and I think of what Grey Eagle is talking about, understanding that we're all souls, I see a crowd of yellow, of bright, bright yellow. Some not so bright, of course. Some forgotten that they are souls. Some who don't even know that they are souls. But those of us who know that we are souls born to this earth to learn and grow, we stand proud, we stand tall, and our aura, our flower, blooms golden bright and yellow. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. So when we see a crowd of people, or the next time you're out shopping, try looking at them not as people, but as spiritual beings having a human experience. There's that quote again, Pierre de Jardin. If only I could say it properly, but anyway. Uh, when we are out shopping, when we're on the beach, the next time, Chris, you walk on the beach, when people go, fishing, or you go, I don't know, skating in the wintertime, or you do an activity where there are other people around, just see if you can look beyond the ordinary vision. See if you can see that golden glow of all of these beautiful, bright yellow daffodils fluttering in the breeze. I learned a lot as I was working with Grey Eagle on soul signs. I learned a lot about the way that we are created. I learned a lot about the different pockets that each soul is placed into, the different pockets of energy that uh, we are. It's as simple as that. We are this type of energy. And no matter how we try not to be, well, we are, and it's who we are. And it's a wonderful thing because we can understand each other. We can understand, I understand myself better, and I understand the people who are around me better. I even understand my mother better. That's a big one for me. I understand that being a fire sign, the energy that she was created from, that was infused into her soul, which then flows through her in a physical sense, creates this drama, feeling a need of drama, a need of shining out, a need of being noticed, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. Unfortunately, fire signs do have a tough job. They do have a tough time. So we come back to California, we come back to that cozy room, and we come back to me sitting there with my spirit guide, making notes, talking things through. Can you imagine the trillions of questions that I had for him? Can you imagine the hard time he had dealing with me? Because every time I asked a question and it was answered, that answer creates a few more questions. As we know, every time, no matter where we are, when we ask a question, we're given an answer, we want to ask another question, don't we? There we were sitting in our cozy room, just Grey Eagle and I, my notebook, my pencils, and fascinated by what I was learning, what I was understanding for the first time. And just when you think, that you know it all, just when you think that your education is complete, something else happens. Someone says something, someone does something. We learn more if we are open and if we're fortunate enough. We learn all the way through this life of ours. Life is about learning, life is about growing, life is about discovering. But for me, through this story, life is about the beautiful golden daffodils. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high, o'er vale and hill, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. The end. That's my story for today. Did you like that story, Chris?
Oh, it had great visuals, Rosemary. While you were telling this story, I found the poem and I've put it up into the chat room, as well as the link to your book, Soul Signs, if people are more curious.
Okay, well, let's see. We know it's Saturday. We know we only stay on for as long as we have questions in the chat room. So let's let's do that. Let's have comments and questions, shall we?
Well, Marlowe's is saying, I read the book. My daughter is 17 and she attends hairdressing school.
Oh,
She doesn't really like it, but she doesn't know what she wants. It stresses me out because of the rules. So I think, because Marlowe's, I believe, is from the Netherlands. I could be wrong. Um, so the way she's interpreting your book, with the rules, how you've designated how to help find out what soul sign you are, it's stressing her out a bit.
there is the golden rule. The golden rule is first find your soul group. It's that simple. Find your soul group. Are you an earth sign, a planner, an action taker, a list maker, you name it? Oh boy, we earth signs, we can be a pain in the butt sometimes. Are you a water sign, a compromiser, a person who is able to flow or go with the flow and put people together and help in arguments and help sort things out and naturally want to compromise? um, Sometimes compromising yourself in the process. Are you a water sign? Are you an air sign? That that person who just floats, lets the world go by. Generally lovely people, they really are, because they do let the world go by and they let people do their own thing, and they very, very rarely have a strong negative opinion about anything, although an air sign can, from time to time, turn into a tornado, but it doesn't last very long. So, are you that kind of go with the flow, easygoing person? Or are you that fire sign? Oh boy, passionate and fiery and uh, loving drama and loving to have the drama in your life. My closest friend, one of my closest friends, Kay, is a fire sign. I've known her for years and years and years, and she loves the drama of a thing, but then she's an artist. And very often, fire signs are artists because they can express these emotions and they can show these emotions, in a very passionate way. So, uh, easy really. Find your soul group first. Then, once you've found your soul group, well, you've only got three choices, haven't you? Um, let's see. If you're an earth sign, you are either a warrior soul, that's me, you are a hunter soul, that's Chris, or you are that wonderful visionary soul. Oh wait, that's my daughter. We're all earth signs. Boy, oh boy. As long as they remember that I'm the warrior and that I'm the leader, that's fine by me. I don't mind at all. But as you read through your choices and as you read through the characteristics, you'll be a lot like all of those. That all the three of them. You'll think, well, that's me. But yeah, but wait a minute, but that's me. But one of those three you'll dismiss and say, well, that's definitely not me. And then the other two, which are you most like? It's very simple. The rule is easy. Just follow the golden rule, find your soul group first, the rest will come. It's easy to do. When you start to read all of the whole, there are actually 13 soul signs. When you start to read them all through, well, you'll say to you, but that's me. Yeah, but that's me. Well, I do that and I do that. You'll get so confused, probably, as you are right now. You'll get so confused because you did not. And I stress in the book, there's one rule, golden rule. First, find your soul group. Everything else is easy after that. You'll have three choices. Instead of having 13 choices and getting yourself completely confused, you'll have three choices. Of those three choices, you will easily eliminate one, and the other two, you'll have great fun deciding which you are most like. And there you have it. That's it. Chris.
All right. Let's see. Jane says, hello from Manchester, England. I
Oh, hey.
I am a fire sign who has been described as an old soul.
Okay. Well, are you a fire sign? Let me see. We're not talking about astrology. This soul science that we're talking about today is not about astrology at all. It's about how each soul is created, what pocket of energy a soul sign was created from, and there are 5 pockets to choose from. The one is the dark soul. We're going to dismiss that. So we have an earth sign, a fire sign, a water sign, and an air sign. But they are very different than at the astrological. Now, when I say that, astrologically, I am uh, an earth sign. I'm a Taurian. Um, Spiritually, in every sense, I'm an earth sign. So I've got a double whammy. So I've got two, two. I'm an earth sign twice over, which probably makes me as strong as I am. So when you say this, my darling, we're not talking about astrology. And I would love to know, did you do soul science? Did you read it? Are you, in fact, um, a fire sign spirit in a spiritual sense? Are you a fire sign? Is your soul created from that fire sign energy? Because if you're being described by people as an old soul, I would say that you are not, in a spiritual sense, a fire sign. Chris, this has given people things to do, hasn't it? This has given people food for thought, we hope.
Absolutely. There's a few people that I'm already reading in the chat room are like, this sounds very interesting. I need to go out and get that book. And so I have put the link in the chat room. So honestly, I would advise you to go out and get that book, but that's just me talking.
Well, Chris, we know people, and you're one of them. You probably practically carry that book around with you. You reference it. It's a little bit like your spiritual Bible.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say exactly. I mean, once I think, because I'm not always correct, once I think I know which energy pocket the people are from, it helps me reframe how I speak with them, how I communicate with them, how I understand the way they're coming at me or toward me. It's just such a tremendous resource.
But I think also what it does mostly, I like to think, is it gives us an understanding understanding and a tolerance, because somebody will do something and you're then able to say, oh, well, in my case, right, my least compatible, that my best friend is a fire sign. So it doesn't always follow. We've had years and years and years of connecting and understanding each other, and we understand each other really well. And I know how to deal with her, she knows how to deal with me. But when somebody does something or says something that might offend you or upset you, and or you say, why can't they be more like me? Or why can't they be more like, their mother or whatever? No, because they are who they are. And knowing a person's soul sign, it enables us to be so much more tolerant. We say, oh, well, I'll say about my friend Kay, she can't help it. She's a fire sign. This is who she is. And we become much more tolerant and much more understanding of people's behavior. We also understand, it helps us to understand why certain people get on really well together, and then other people who you might really like and get on with, other people think, how can you stand that person? Well, because we are compatible energy. So this helps tremendously. It helps us understand about relationships. But here I will say it again. If you are going to get the book, please, by all means, read it through. But before you start to work on what you are, first find your soul group: fire, earth, water, something,
Yeah.
air, fire, fire, yes, fire, earth, water, air. Which are you most? And then you only have 3 soul signs to choose from. Again, I'll say you will eliminate the one, and then which are you most uh, of the 2 that are left? Go through the characteristics, go through the character traits, and which are you most? Because you will be so like all 3 will be, you'll have lots of things in common. You'll also have lots of things in common with lots of other soul signs, which is why it's imperative that you don't get confused by checking out every, well, oh, I want to be this, I want to be this. I have a lovely friend of mine. She's really very cute, very sweet. And when I was telling her about this, she is a water sign, and one of the water signs is an old soul. We've just mentioned an old soul. One of the water signs is an old soul. The another is the peacemaker. And so I gave her the 3 choices, and then we read them through together. She, of course, she had a lot of help from me, but she made the decision. But when I first said to her, okay, you've got choices here. And when we'd eliminated it, she was either the old soul or the peacemaker. She said to me, oh, please, please let me be an old soul. I've always wanted to be an old soul. I've always wanted somebody to tell me I'm an old soul. Please let me be an old soul. It turned out that she was actually a peacemaker, which is equally as good, equally as fine. And the peacemaker is that one person who keeps the entire family together, and that's who definitely who she is. So please check it out if you haven't checked it out before. Check it out; it's fascinating. And once you've found what soul sign you are, because that's the first thing you must do, of course. It's all about us, right? Then you can start to look at your children. I've just mentioned to you that my daughter is a visionary soul. Um, I'm not going to tell you what my grandson is, but I'm very happy that this is who he is. But just saying, just not going to tell you right now, because as he gets a little older, he's going to decide for himself. My puppy Cachorro, he was definitely an earth sign and definitely a warrior. Yes, your pets. Yes, it applies to your pets, but it also applies to your family. It explains to you why your father loves you more than he loves his son or daughter, why Your mother is much more connected with, one of your other siblings. It describes and explains to you why things happen, and it takes away the sting and if you feel that you've been left out, as far as your father's concerned, it's not that he intended to do it, it's just his energy is more compatible with someone else and with you, and so on, and it helps tremendously, uh, especially when you're picking a partner, or when you and your partner are having little misunderstandings and so on. You'll see, once you realize what your soul sign is and realize what his soul sign is, you'll be able to see the pitfalls of the relationship and hopefully avoid them or work around them. Yes, it's a great book. Okay, Chris.
Well, Rosemary, I'm also reminded, especially for our folks on LinkedIn who can watch this video live, you can help any business, any group who are having challenges amongst the players as to how to figure things out with soul signs as well, can't you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, when you're in business, and if it's a larger business, you want people, whether it's a small business or a large business, you want people with you, working with you, who can work with you as a team. Unfortunately, there are some people who simply can't work with other people because their energies clash. So, which is your most compatible energy? So, when you're looking to create a business or you have a business already, and you have all of those, there's always problems with with people and with a team and so on. You've heard the phrase, there's always one, who causes trouble. And it's not necessarily that one person causes trouble, it's simply that they are not compatible energy wise with some of the other players on the team. So it can be so helpful, and I don't think people need me necessarily. You can work it out for yourself. But yes, I mean, I have sat with groups of people, with teams of people. In fact, didn't I sit in one of your book clubs once, Chris, or whatever that was, a
No, it was
writing
the
group?
AMP program.
Sorry.
It was the AMP program,
Okay.
Accelerated
Okay.
Momentum program.
Whatever that was, it was a group of people who needed to understand why they were stuck, or why they couldn't settle down to doing what they were supposed to be doing, uh, why their energy didn't connect with somebody else's energy, so on and so forth. So there's lots of ways you can use soul science, and lots of ways to help people to understand why they work the way they do, why they think the way they do, why sometimes people procrastinate. And if you're an earth sign, you will only procrastinate for 5 seconds and then you'll move forward, right? If you're a water sign, you will have a tendency to procrastinate, because you just want to make sure everybody's compatible and happy with what you're doing, and so on. um, the earth sign probably won't procrastinate. They'll just say, hey, whatever, and go with the flow. And of course, the fire sign will be saying, yes, but what about me? But what about me? Because fire signs are very emotional and emotionally driven people, wonderful people, lovely people, but um, they 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 do have this fabulous and explosive sometimes energy. Yeah, fascinating. Keep going, Chris.
Well, that also reminds me, Rosemary, when you mentioned the writing group, you've given courses to writers because obviously you're an author yourself,
Yeah,
but even how in character development, if you can structure your characters knowing what sign they are, what a more robust novel you could write.
right. Yeah, yes, I think just a mine of information is what I tell you. Keep going.
Carolyn says, I think when starting to read soul signs, one might hope that they are a certain sign. All signs have their beauty.
Well, I think that once you start to read soul signs, I think you know every single sign every person on this planet has some, well, unless you're a dark soul, that's a whole other thing. But most of the people on this planet have a wonderful side, a good side. Again, remember with soul science, it's not quite as simple as it sounds, because again, the way you were brought up, sometimes you are encouraged to suppress your natural energy, your natural inclinations to behave in a certain way. And growing up, I was certainly, absolutely taught to suppress, to keep quiet, which is not in my nature at all. But I was taught to suppress, and I was made to believe that I was pretty worthless, really, in the scheme of things. So it takes a while, and your upbringing, of course, makes a huge difference to the way you use your energy, to the way you are, and to the way you interact with other people. This is this is where the bottom brick comes in so well. And of course, when I'm doing the bottom brick, I'm also assessing and looking to see what a certain person's soul energy is, and how they best can move forward with their lives and make the most of who they are and what they have. Okay.
Lorraine says, I have always loved daffodils. In the Northeast, the first sign of spring on the way was the sprouting of the daffodils. The scent was amazing. I felt their strength to keep their blooms on, especially with the March winds. So nice what I read about them in the Soul Signs book. What is the connection with the type of daffodil and an air sign? I need further explanation.
Oh well, if you need further explanation, remember there are three different soul air signs. Which one are you? Which one is your beautiful daffodil? And maybe we'll have a session one time to talk about that, and to talk about why Grey Eagle picked each certain bloom connects and has a relationship with the type of soul we are. So maybe we'll have a conversation about that too.
Mark says, I love how you and Chris work together. It's very simpatico. It's as if you were both meant to be in this place, this space, helping many of us who adore you both. When a soul leaves this world very angry and dark, how are they received in the spirit world? Can Gray Eagle share?
His words, with open arms. There's always a reason for someone's anger. There's always a reason for someone's despair. We often don't know the reason. I always say to people, nobody knows what happens behind closed doors. Once a person or persons go, close that door, they have a family situation, or they have a relationship, or whatever it is. We might think, looking when the door is open and we can see them clearly, we might think that we know what's going on, but nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors. The most gentle, the most seemingly kind, the most loving of people can be behind closed door, the most violent, the most controlling, um, berating their partner for something that they shouldn't be berated for. We all say, but he's such a nice man. He was such a nice man. Well, how many times have we heard that about the murderer, about the about the murderer who kills again and again and again? How many times have we heard people say, but he seemed to be such a nice man? And how many times have we seen someone who's downtrodden, or someone who is seemingly uh, passive, sort of fiery? And how often have we seen someone who's fiery, only fiery because they're defending, or they feel that they're defending the people that they love? Everyone is treated differently. We don't know their story. Graver knows their story. So his answer is, how are those people received, as we all are, with open arms? How about that? Chris?
Judith says, Rosemary, my personality, my way of life, my behavior, etc., has changed drastically later in my life. Does that come up in soul signs?
Yes, it does, because that's the difference between a mature soul and a soul who is immature. Um, we all have a certain type of energy. We're all driven by certain things in our lives, and as we learn and as we grow, as I've said to you, I grew up in a household where I was. It was dictated to me. I was suppressed. My energy was suppressed. My natural inclinations were suppressed, and through that suppression, I was made to feel less, less than. But as we get older and as we learn more, we become, and as we move away from our family and that the dictatorships of our families, very often, we learn to be more of ourselves. We learn, we grow, we mature. So naturally, we become who we were meant to be. As a child, I was suppressed, I was quiet. The first job I ever had, it was 6 months before I actually spoke to anyone, unless I was spoken to. And I remember the cashier in the workplace I worked, um, and this is a true story. I can't remember what it was that I said. I can't remember what happened particularly, but I remember the cashier coming out from her office, and she ran up and down the staircase shouting. There were 2 floors above us. She was shouting to the ladies and pressing. There was a buzzer on the staircase, sort of, and she kept pressing the buzzer and shouting up to the ladies. She spoke. She spoke. She actually, and all of the uh, people who worked in that place were leaning over the banisters. Some ran down the stairs. They wanted to see the woman who, well, was just a girl at the time. I was 16. She spoke. She spoke. Yeah, well, and now you can't. Now you see. Look, you think you've changed. Can't shut me up. Um, so a lot of it has to do with our upbringing. It has to do with how we're encouraged and we're encouraged to keep quiet. The thing children should be seen and not heard, and so on, which I feel is a terrible thing. But so our energy very often are suppressed by our upbringing. And so, naturally, as we get older and we dare to be more and more of ourselves and we dare to embrace who we are, we do change. I'm certain, absolutely certain, that any of my school friends who may remember me would certainly not remember me this way, because I was a quiet little mouse, which I am no longer, of course. Chris.
Lorraine says, once I know people's soul signs, I understand them better for sure,
Yes.
and myself as well. It makes for a better time with all.
Well, I'm glad that some of you are making use of this and hopefully having fun with it, because it is a book to have fun with. Let me tell you, once you've figured out who you are, you start thinking, "Oh, let me figure out my husband or my boyfriend or my girlfriends or my kids or whatever." You start to want to figure out everybody, and then you become more understanding of the way a person works and the way why a person is the way they are. It really does help for sort of more tolerance and more understanding of other people, which is great. But it's also a lot of fun. Really, it is a lot of fun. When I go into groups or crowds, or if I'm going out with drinks and I meet people who know about soul science, they'll immediately say, "Go on, then, go on, then. What am I? What am I?" And I like people to figure it out for themselves. So I encourage people to do it for themselves. But if I'm in a group, I will maybe help them a little bit. And some people, they'll tell me that they're one soul type, and I'm thinking, "Oh gosh, I got that wrong," uh, which is why it's important. soul group first. Can't go wrong. Once you've got picked your soul group, that's great. I remember doing a workshop on soul signs, and actually it worked with a. There were a couple of people in the audience who I got to know really well, and I asked, if you're an earth sign, sit here. If you're a water sign, here, and so on and so forth, and put people in groups. And it was so funny as I was talking and explaining more about the types of soul signs and more about how they act and react. Occasionally throughout the afternoon, you would see people would get up from this group and move themselves into another group, and it was so it was funny. I can remember this friend of mine put himself in the water sign group because he liked the idea that he was definitely a compromiser. Absolutely, definitely, he was a compromiser. So he was happy to put himself in the water sign group because that was his idea. But as he learned more and more about it, at some point I watched as he got up and put himself in the fire sign group. He did not want to be a fire sign, but he was a fire sign. And then knowing how wonderful, a mature fire sign is the best, fabulous, most fabulous person. So it's a lot of fun. Chris.
Marlos wants to know, when you work in a team, is it important that all signs are represented there?
No, it isn't important at all. Because if you are majority of the team are earth signs, and you put one fire sign in there, oh boy, you're going to have problems. Now that fire sign will be very creative and very wonderful, but the compatibility, the energy and the understanding between them will not be there the same. It will not be. So it can cause issues and problems. And water signs and earth signs are fabulous together. They work really well together. Just look at it this way. Um, water feeds the earth. Earth gives water a place to be. Compatibility. Fire and air are very compatible. Without air, fire does not exist. So they need each other. They need to connect with each other. So they also are very, very compatible. So you'll find the two working really, really well together. Two air signs working together, you probably won't find a lot done because we'll be just having fun and letting go and just letting things go with the flow. Two fire signs together can be fabulous and really, really creative until they start arguing with each other because they're so passionate about what they're doing. And if they're in agreement with it, that's great. But if they're in disagreement, woof, you'll see the fire go. You'll see it. See, earth signs. Oh no, not again, not again. Let's go.
You're still
I
here,
know that
Rosemary.
you can hear me, but my stupid screen has gone blank again. Let me see if I can bring it back. There we go. So two earth signs can work really, really well together, except that there's always got to be one who's a little bit more in charge than the other. But working together and mature soul signs of any group, mature soul signs can get over and deal with whatever's going on with that other person they're working with. But it is important when you're working in a team and the team is important and you need the team to work together. It's really, really an amazing thing if you can understand soul signs and put your team together based on the type of energy. Because that way you can get the most creative, you can get the most powerful team going, but you also can get that compatibility and that understanding of working together well. So, when teams break up or when they go awry, it's because one soul sign is not compatible with the other soul sign. So you can see how interesting it is. I think it's a fascinating subject.
So, Rosemary, we're coming right up on time. One last question.
Okay.
When let's pretend you're a hiring manager
Me?
Do you hire, if you only have two choices, hire for skill set or hire for soul sign compatibility? Which would you choose?
Without a doubt. Compatibility when you're working with people, if you're hiring people and you're working with people, you want them to be compatible, because if they're not compatible, no matter what the skill set is, it's not going to work out if they're arguing with each other all the time. Compatibility is much more, I think, much more important. People who get on well together are able to see the other's point of view, are able to give that other person kudos when they, when it's required. You don't want a team leader to be that person who's taking all the credit, because then every other person in the team gets, despondent, or they become annoyed or angry. So compatibility, I would say, is the most important thing. And that's it. And I think that we've all been very compatible with each other today. I hope you've learned something from our story time. We've had really good discussion about soul signs. So hopefully you get a little bit more of an understanding. Remember, if you get the book and you read the book, golden key, the only rule is first find your soul group, then you can figure it out. All right. Well, I would like to say thank you to all of you for watching. I'd like to say thank you, of course, to Chris. And I would like to say thank you to Gregor. He's been absolutely great this morning. It was his suggestion that I talk daffodils this morning. He whispered it in my ear as I was beginning. I thought, yes, let's do that then. Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vale and hill. There is another version, but I like this one best. Enjoy the day, enjoy living for the moment of every moment of every day. Enjoy the summer. I don't know if you saw, but my daughter and I made margaritas. Well, I made the margaritas, and we sat outside in the garden until like 10 o'clock at night. It was so beautiful here, and the flowers are everywhere. She has hydrangeas, huge, big, fat, white hydrangea flowers going on in the garden. They're fantastic, and the perfume, of course, is wonderful. I hope wherever you are, you're having as good a summer as I am having right now. And until we see you again, which probably will be um, Thursday morning, the spirit world sees all. I'll try and get it right next Thursday. Uh, until I see you all again, please look out for us, because you never know when we're going to do an off the cuff or when we're going to do something. Just want to remind people, yes, I am here in New York City. Connecticut is only a stone's throw away, right? And on the 27th of August, I am going to be in Connecticut in person, talking about all things wonderful, all things spiritual, talking about helping people to raise their level of consciousness, to encourage you to look beyond your ordinary vision. And of course, naturally, we are going to be giving messages from the spirit world. So if you would like to know more about that, go to my website, rosemaryaltea.com, and you'll find all the information there. So until I see you all again, please, 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 everybody, have a very blessed rest of the day, and have a very blessed rest of the weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.